Welcome to episode 1 of the Frugal and Thriving podcast. Where do you start when you decide to live more frugally? There is so much advice out there and so many lifestyle changes that you can make that it can get overwhelming. So this is my take on the best place to get started. Of all the frugal habits you can foster, there's one in particular that will save you money, but it also has another big benefit too. In fact, if there is only one frugal habit that you ever adopt, this would be it. And that habit is to minimize waste. Why start with minimizing waste? Because cutting expenses and making big lifestyle changes can feel like deprivation, especially when you're just beginning your frugal journey. And when you feel deprived, you don't tend to stay motivated, and then it's possible to go back to old, tried and true habits. But reducing waste, on the other hand, doesn't feel like deprivation because you're not making big lifestyle changes, but you're still saving money. And wins in this area will keep you motivated over the long run and encourage you to make those further lifestyle changes. Another reason to start with waste reduction is that it covers a lot of spending areas, and so reducing waste can actually add up to some really big savings. In this episode, I'm going to cover the 3 big areas of waste that have the biggest impact on your budget. But back to that other big benefit. As you've probably already worked out, reducing waste doesn't just save you money, it's also good for the environment. Before I get to the 3 big areas of waste reduction, I want to remind you to check out the show notes that go along with this episode for a heap of resources on the Frugal and Thriving blog, and that will help you to reduce waste. Food makes up an incredible 40% of our household waste. According to the Australian Government's Department of Environment and Energy website, Australian consumers throw away around 3.1 million tonnes of edible food a year. For the average Australian household, that translates to around 20% of food purchased. That's like buying 5 bags of groceries and just chucking one straight in the bin every single week. And according to the government's National Food Waste Strategy document, which I'll link to in the show notes if you're interested in reading it, food waste costs Australian households between $2,200 and $3,800 a year, which is pretty massive when you think about it. So reducing food waste, which can potentially not only halve your waste, which of course is good for the environment, it can also add up to significant savings in the budget, thousands of dollars even, which is why it's an excellent place to start. So how do you reduce food waste? The key is to buy only what you will eat and eat what you buy. Buy what you eat and eat what you buy. The most effective strategy for doing this is meal planning. Planning out your meals for the week, writing a shopping list of necessary ingredients, buying only what's on your list, and then eating the food you buy. The other strategy is to plan for leftovers. We eat leftovers for lunch, and that saves us money on lunches as well as reducing food waste. And to be honest, I prefer a leftover stir fry to a soggy sandwich any day. You can also freeze leftovers, repurpose leftovers, or plan meals like a vegetable curry that will use up all the bits and bobs in your crisper before they go limp. So reducing food waste can save you a ton of money. Multiply your savings with the next tip. The second way to reduce waste is by switching from disposable products to reusable products. If you think about how our grandparents lived, they would buy something once and use it over and over until it wore out. What we do now is the opposite. We use something once and buy it over and over, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, not just in terms of the amount of landfill we create, but because it wastes so much money unnecessarily. So how do you switch from disposables? Here's a biggie that we need to tackle first. If you currently buy bottled water, then this switch is going to save you a heap of money. The average person in the US buys 167 bottles of water a year, which is around 3 bottles a week. In Australian dollars, at $3 a bottle, that adds up to $468 a year. A reusable bottle is a great investment and will save you money not just this year, but for years to come. And if you don't like the taste of tap water, a good water filter can fix that. But there are lots of other disposable products in the home that can be switched for reusable ones. And while the savings won't be as dramatic, each switch can add up. Cling wrap, for example, can be exchanged with reusable containers, recycled jars, and even an upturned bowl covering food on a plate or a plate covering food in a bowl. You don't have to go out and buy fancy containers. You can just use what you've already got at home. Disposable dishcloths can be exchanged for reusable ones that you just throw in the wash with your clothes. Paper towel can be exchanged with cleaning rags and tea towels, and even a cake rack for draining things like bacon instead of draining it on paper towel. In fact, there are dozens of potential disposable products in our homes that can be easily replaced with reusable ones. So when you come across a disposable product, consider ways you can switch to reusable. Each time you switch, you're saving money, not just this month, not just this year, but for many years to come. The third area of waste I'm going to look at in this episode is energy waste. There are a lot of ways to reduce energy consumption, but one of the easiest ways to get started is by not wasting energy. According to a study done in the UK, households waste between 9 and 16% of their energy. Now in Australia, the average energy cost is around $1,600 a year. That's according to a survey done by CanStar. So if 9 to 16% of that bill is wasted energy, then that's an extra $144 to $256 that you could save each year without a lot of effort. In practical terms, that means turning lights and ceiling fans off when you're not in a room. It means not running the aircon or heating when nobody's at home. It means turning off TVs and computers when no one is using them. It means turning electronics off at the wall instead of leaving them on standby. And it means only running the dishwasher or the washing machine when you have a full load. So to recap, the best place to start when changing habits to more frugal ones is to address waste. By reducing waste in the home, especially in the big 3 areas of food waste, disposables, and energy waste, the savings can really add up over the course of a year. And you don't get that feeling of deprivation that might come when you make big changes to your budget. Small changes are easy to implement, and when you see results, they can motivate you to then go on and make those bigger changes. Thanks for listening to the Frugal and Thriving podcast. Don't forget to check out the show notes for more resources on reducing waste and saving money. And if you like today's show, click and subscribe.